Hey guys, before we go any further, I want to tell you about one of my favorite marketing podcasts. I think you're really going to enjoy. Believe it or not, it's a fun and funny podcast about email marketing. That's what it's called, the Email Marketing Show. They recently did an amazing episode called Six Lies Your Email Marketing Platform is Telling You, which I love because these guys are so genuine and real in their opinions about what is working and what does not in the email marketing world today. You should definitely check it out. You can go find them in your podcast player of choice as the Email Marketing Show, or go to their website at emailmarketingheroes.com. Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. It's got the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. Today I have John Michelsen, the Chief Executive Officer, also known as CEO, of Krista Software out of Dallas and Fort Worth. Which one are you in?
I am in Dallas.
You're in Dallas. Of course, they kind of combine everything.
Everything's all kind of run together these days, yes.
It's how it is. So John is a Brooklyn transplant that ended up growing up on a farm in Texas with 5 siblings.
That
So
is right.
obviously Brooklyn was not enough room for 5 siblings. So
It did get tight, and Dad wanted to get us onto a farm, and sure enough, that's what he did.
So this is not your first rodeo. You have 28 patents, and are they all done, or are some of them in the process?
Most all of them are done. There are a number that are cranking up now based on the project I'm doing now that'll
Wow.
be another, who knows.
I can't imagine 28 patents.
I'm better titled Chief Geek than Chief Executive Officer.
So what is Krista Software?
Krista Software is our vision for how we really need to be interacting with technology. We wrote a mission statement to make technology that understands people. We think that the world is full of software companies trying to make software that people can try to figure out.
Yeah.
And that's not it, right? If technology is going to continue to evolve at the increasing pace it is, people are no longer the ones capable of keeping up with it. It must keep up with us.
Yes.
We evolve over eons. We can do continuous deployment every few seconds. So obviously technology needs to take the burden, not us.
It's crazy how fast. Honestly, I think humans are evolving a little faster now because we have to, but
Yeah.
still, if you look at how fast computers are evolving, it's ridiculous. Every day it's something different.
It is. That whole Moore's curve that was articulated by Moore back in the mid 60s.
Yeah.
He's been so right. And it's just unbelievable. In fact, AI, ML specifically, training of AI is accelerating at a rate faster than Moore's law, which is to say that natural language processing and the algorithms behind a lot of the machine learning models that we're using these days, they're progressing even faster. So
Wow.
it is accurate to say that the rate of acceleration itself is accelerating, which is really hard for people who think in 2 dimensions. They want a line to go from lower left, upper right. That's not what we're talking about here, right?
Wow. And so before this, I mean, you're a consummate entrepreneur. You've been doing this for a while. You enjoy the ride clearly, because 28 patents, you wouldn't do that if you didn't enjoy the ride. Because let's just make it perfectly clear, getting a patent is not an easy thing to do.
No, it takes hours of writing the initial, and then you get a year to basically write the real one. And then the real one is an extremely ugly, dense,
Ugh.
it doesn't even resemble human language, but it's written in English, document that it definitely requires a lawyer to do most of the workup. And then they call it actually prosecuting the patent. It takes years to actually prosecute the patent, because the default behavior of the patent office is to deny your patent on whatever grounds they could possibly find, like, oh, the word orange is in another patent, so you obviously
geez.
it's on an invention.
Serious?
Well, it starts that way, yeah. So it's like most legal things, it's built beautifully for the legal system and for the lawyers in it.
Yeah, no one else
It
can
really is.
understand
I mean, it's built to essentially take a long time to get it through, and you can understand the basis of it. They don't want to issue a patent that is materially like something else that's already been patented, or it should never be patented, right? There are concepts that should not be. But the way that devolves when lawyers are involved is a years long. Yeah, I need the legal profession. I have 28 times already. Another 7 or 8 are on the way. But
Yeah.
the point is, patents are about claiming an invention, and the real motivation for me, obviously, is not patents. It's you find a segment of our world in the technology world that I know.
Yeah.
You find an area where we're just continuing to do that classic Einstein thing of we're doing the
Mhm.
same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And you think that, okay, let's just invalidate some assumptions. Let's take a completely different approach. Literally say BS on exactly the thing everybody says is gospel. And then see
Yeah.
if you do that. If you can build that, then you could get a completely different outcome. And I've done that a number
Wow.
of times in a number of areas, and that's what yielded that number of patents. But it's actually
Whew.
the
Yeah.
that's actually the creative motivation, right? It's not starting companies, that's a pain in the bleep. And
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's not funding them because that's an even bigger bleep. But by the time you get something out of your head into you can demo to somebody, and then it actually gets sold to a customer, and then lots of
Yeah.
customers buying it, and then it makes it value like, wow, right? And that is
It's
like,
addictive.
yeah, unbelievably, it's a drug you can't buy on the street for sure. You end up needing another hit as soon as you're done with the one you're over, yeah, so I've just been doing this,
So
and
28 times over, exactly.
yeah, I was supposed to retire at the end of I actually this project caused me not to retire. I even hired my replacement at the last startup and was working my way completely out of a job, and then this. There you
Oh
go.
my god, your family must love you. You said you're a professional Western dancer as well.
I do country western dance and other styles, yeah. Since I'm here in Dallas, I mean, you gotta do the
You
country western
got
stuff.
it. You
Yeah, but
got it.
there's lots of different dance styles, and I do compete and socially dance quite a bit,
So
yeah.
you do step away from the computer from time to time.
I do actually 3 times a week, either practice or social dance fun stuff, and then about 8 competitions a year worldwide.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you have another project. But
Yeah, yeah,
it's good to have something it's good to have other interests other than your day job, which is
that is true. There is a lot that keeps you sane that way. When I was younger, I couldn't imagine not putting every one of the 120 waking hours into doing what I was doing, but, if there's one thing that I got getting a little bit older and doing this enough, the perspective changes just a little bit. Take your eyes
mhm.
off of the keyboard and your screen for a few hours. Go do something completely different. Come back. Sometimes you're much faster. Sometimes you realize you just spent the day on something you should have never even bothered with, and the disconnect for a moment and then reconnect often is very very useful for you.
So, you've been doing this for a while. So you've been the VP of development, you've been the CEO, CTO, SVP, chief CPO, which is chief product officer.
Yeah.
So you've been every see something or other under the sun pretty much.
Except for sales. Although I do a lot of work in sales, I just have a whole different level of respect for the work it takes to actually extract money from a person's wallet. That is a
Mhm.
job.
It's a tough job and it's a talent. I
It
tried
is.
sales and, like, I can sell
Yeah,
my business
yeah.
and what I do, but, like, if some people can just sell, like, "Sell me this pen, The Wolf of Wall Street. Sell me this pen." I'm
Right,
like,
right.
"Is it a cool pen? What does it do?" Like, it doesn't help me. So you've always been entrepreneurial and doing your thing. What has been the most rewarding thing about being an entrepreneur?
It's the fact that I can be a part of knowing I had impact. I'm
Mhm.
building something that you know is impactful, or it just crashes and burns and you move on to the other thing. And thank goodness I've actually had a great track record, and I've been super fortunate that way.
Yeah.
You know that you're either going to do something with huge impact, or you're going to learn from it and you're going to have
Yeah.
another shot at it next time. You don't actually, it is really true that you either win or you learn. You only lose if you give up, and sometimes you even have to take a break. I've been a serial entrepreneur type. I've never actually I had an employee badge once by acquisition. I did my time, right? I did the best I could to see if I could be impactful at a, $5 billion software company. But it just doesn't work. The level of engagement that I intend to have and the impact I intend to have on the technology and the customers, it just isn't I just couldn't. So I did the best I could, and hopefully had obviously some positive effect for that company and those
Mhm.
people. I loved the time there. It was very I learned a lot, which is a way of saying I failed at what I was trying to do.
We're gonna take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show. Time and place is everything, especially in marketing. But today there are millions of messages per minute and not enough hours in the day. How do you catch your target audience's attention? One word: LinkedIn. LinkedIn can help you speak to the right people at the right time. LinkedIn has become number one in B2B advertising in the US. With LinkedIn, you can stand out against your competitors, nurturing customer relationships and growing your brand. LinkedIn delivers you quantity and quality. Its targeting tools allow you to reach precise audiences down to their job title, company name, location, and more, which means your ads are being seen by those who matter most. Scale your marketing and grow your business with LinkedIn advertising. As a thank you to their customers for helping them grow 3 times faster than their competition, LinkedIn is offering a $100 credit on your next campaign. To get this credit, go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Yeah, but you learn. But you don't fail unless you quit, really, is what it
Yep.
boils down to,
Yep.
which
Yep.
is I like that you either you win or you learn. The
Yep.
only way you fail is if you quit.
That's right.
So what's the scariest thing about being an entrepreneur?
You're frequently risking an enormous amount of time, your money, the opportunity cost of making a good living.
Mhm.
You invest a lot of other people in this. You convince people to do something before there's enough proof that it would really make sense from a business perspective. So they're jumping in with you on the emotion or on the faith they have in you. And if
Mhm.
it does crumble, it's not just a cost for you, it's a cost for your family, it's a cost for potentially you for years in finance. It's difficult for people who threw in with you if it doesn't work out.
Mhm.
I wouldn't recommend it. I've done it my entire life. I don't know that I'd say, hey, you know what you really ought to do? I'll put it to you this way. I dropped out of college at the end of my third year to start my first business, but both my kids finished their degrees and one of them
Good.
got 2 advanced degrees. Yeah. So if you're not totally 100% compelled to do this, do not do it.
Yeah, it takes a special breed of of person, special breed of crazy in some ways. It's the thrill seeking. People like to jump off of cliffs. Your thrill is building businesses and
Yeah.
putting money on the line, putting ideas on the line, and making it sing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
That would be phone full of pictures of my wife and kids
Yeah.
because everybody does this. Everybody has to understand that dad's up all the way through the night working with the folks in
Mhm.
Europe or in Asia or whatever, or up early. Everyone does this. The successes that I've had, and I'm very thankful for them, would not have happened if I was constantly at odds with my family around it.
Mhm.
And even
Mhm.
now, my kids are grown and they look back on those times and they say, yeah, at times I didn't even know you were working that much. Well, because I get them to school, pick them up from school, spend a few hours with them, tuck them into bed, go back to work, right?
Exactly.
Work
Yep.
for several hours, get a few hours sleep, get up, wash, rinse, repeat. Oftentimes they didn't know, but there were times when they did. And I really appreciate that they say, hey, they taught me a work ethic. It taught me to think,
Mhm.
about things differently. So it worked out well, right? It doesn't
Worked out
always.
well.
People usually start this.
Patient family. Yeah.
That's good. Most people, first time they do this, they say, "Hey, I want to change the world, but I'm broke. So let's. So what do I do?" And they're looking for outside money. By now, I can put money into my own thing.
Yeah.
Still, I'm trying to change the world.
And so, let's say someone has a special breed of crazy, and they want to be entrepreneurial, and it seems like nowadays more and more young adults
Yep.
are saying, "I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to try doing my on my own." What is the best advice you can give to them besides go get a job?
I think it's about understanding the risk, and if you can live with the consequences of that risk going poorly for you, then. And by the way, even the people around you, right? Don't tell them this is such a sure thing. No bank
Oh
in the
yeah.
world will lend me money, but it's an absolute guarantee. There are no absolute guarantees. Be super sober about. I'm incredibly excited. I think this is going to go crazy. I think I'm going to be a
Yeah.
billionaire, but it could all burn. I can't actually promise you anything. So please get into it with me. Only if you understand, like me, you're taking a big risk. As
Exactly.
long as you're really sober about the risk, why would you not? If you really think you've got a great idea and you think you can generate real money with it,
Yeah.
the job, the being the 21st person who does that job at a big company, that job is there in another couple of years from now. If
Yeah.
you really can do something like that, or you think you could, if you really put yourself into it, and you're sober about the risk for you and the people around you pull in, you'd have to. You got to, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way this works. It doesn't,
Yeah.
otherwise, we don't get planes and automobiles. We don't get new drugs. No one steps out and does something
Exactly. So you either win or you learn.
That's right.
And if you never try, you lost because, you gotta try. I mean, then there's some people that are like that are entrepreneurs. I've talked to a bunch of people that prefer to be in a company, get the paycheck, but they're very entrepreneurial, but internal.
I've rehired those people into my stuff for the 3rd time now. Krista Software is an old startup.
Yeah.
I've literally had people who've worked with me since the late '90s, the very late.
Wow.
Now I'm 53 years old. My 3rd startup was in the late '90s, and there's one person who I brought into a company in the late '90s. There's had at least a dozen in this company that worked with me in the mid 2000s. So I mean, we're talking a long time that have been, yeah,
So they
and
know what they're getting into.
yeah, and yeah,
Well, that's
exactly,
good. They know
exactly.
they
That's
know they
true.
know John's up to something, and
Yeah.
it's probably good.
At this point, Seth, I don't have to give them the whole speech about, "Hey, be sober about blah, blah." You're right. They know what they're getting into. But on the flip side, they are not interested in themselves in starting a company, but they love being a part of something that can be big, and they love it,
Mhm.
and they're willing to trade. I can't pay them the do I almost everyone takes a pay cut when they join a little company versus
Oh,
work.
absolutely.
They know what they're getting themselves into, and they know there's great upside potentially in stock options, but on the other hand, they know that today and tomorrow will be much more exciting, and
Mhm.
that is
It's
an
fun.
entrepreneur, right? That's an
Yeah, the
entrepreneur.
entrepreneur, exactly. It's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
along for the ride, and it's but it's also an entrepreneur, I feel, is it's when you especially with you, they have buy-in. They know what they're getting themselves into, which I feel like a lot of people that join a big company and they're entrepreneurs, they might be in a really big company and not necessarily know
yeah,
the CEO. Whereas with
right.
you, they're like, "Oh, it's John. He's up to something. It's gonna be good. Even if it's not good, it's gonna be a fun ride. Let's go for it." That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, and, God bless the entrepreneurs because moving a big company, I just mentioned a few minutes ago, incredibly challenging to do. It takes a level of patience that at least I didn't exhibit. So
Mhm.
there obviously is a need for people to be that engine for innovation inside existing things.
Mhm.
You might even say I'm the cop out for going and starting something new instead of building it inside somebody. That's maybe the entrepreneur's accurate assessment of me versus them. It's very fair to say a big company doing something big and bold and new is harder than,
Mm.
"Hey, let's just roll the dice. This is." It's like,
Yeah. You're more
I
ni
look
you're
like
more
lottery,
nimble. Yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah,
you're a lot more nimble, and this is turning a big ship versus turning a sailboat. Well, maybe
exactly,
not turning a
exactly.
sailboat, turning a motorboat.
Motorboat, yeah.
Turning a sailboat's not easy. I can tell you that right now.
I just watch that sort of stuff and think, "How does the wind work again? How does that really?"
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, like,
Yeah,
I was about to that is not exact correlation, but, like, turning the Ever Given that got stuck in the Suez, proof that those things are hard to turn
yeah. Oh, yeah.
versus having a little motorboat that, or a little tugboat that got it out of it got that thing straight again. I mean,
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
nimble versus, turning Merck around or, a big company like Merck versus a
Yeah.
new little startup. They're gonna be more nimble, but
The
Merck's
the
gonna have more money to invest in stuff.
the biggest challenge is people related because there's so much inertia for the way that things are currently done. And when
Mhm,
I was younger and didn't even understand that concept because I'd actually, being a very risk tolerant, very willing to try 5 ways and, just all that, I didn't realize that there is a whole kind of personality type to wait.
mhm,
It's valid to do it again, even if it's wrong, because that's the way I know.
mhm,
There's a very real, I called it the mediocre middle, in most
mhm.
organizations, right? That mediocre where mediocrity is just fine. The paycheck, direct deposits, no one comes and talks poorly to me. I kind of, everything just kind of works out. It's hard to get that to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's comfortable, and people stay at companies for 12 years because of that.
yeah.
More and more people are realizing now with the Great Resignation that it's maybe not the right way to go about things.
Well, Seth, and you're a good example of this, right? You're
Mhm.
doing something completely different than you probably expected 5, 10 years ago.
I've been in this 14 years, so before that, I was a journalist, so it's
Yeah.
like
When you think about us, think
mhm.
we only get one life. And of course, there are those who believe in reincarnation, and maybe that's a nice.
But then you're a butterfly, so
Yeah,
it's not and it's never the
it
same.
doesn't count.
Even if you come back as a human,
As a
it's
puppy,
not gonna be the same run as the one before.
yeah. So in my, if you're going to invest yourself in something, you might as well feel like you're having an impact in it, or at the very least, really enjoying it and developing. Really,
Yeah.
anyway, if that's something that you can do at a big company, great. I don't see it that way. I just think building something. And I obviously work with big companies all the time. I sell
Yeah,
my
I mean, you're
software.
building enterprise software. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like clearly you have to kind of know how to maneuver the minutia in the big companies to get in there as a small company, but like still, you have to be scrappy,
Yeah, yeah. And
at
there have
least at
to
the
be good
beginning.
people in those big companies who want to do big things. Otherwise, my stuff would never get in there anyway, right? I'm trying
Hmm.
to change the world, and they're wanting to do it too. They're just on the inside. And like I say, maybe they've got the harder job. Sometimes, so you know what? Sometimes they do. You see the guy who really gets excited about, wow, we could do so much better if we went, did this other way. And that person now has a lot of inertia to work against, and
Hmm.
a lot of people to convince that they don't have to agree. They can ignore, right? They just don't even have to reply to emails and stuff. And anyway, it's tough.
It's
It's
wild.
tough to be a
Both
change agent
sides,
inside a big company. Yeah. Yeah.
both sides, entrepreneur and entrepreneur. It's crazy. So where can people find you, John?
Well, you can start at the website if you want to learn about Krista, kristasoft.com, KRISTASOFT. I'm easy to find. I'm
Okay.
on LinkedIn. Happy to pick up this conversation with someone if they're interested.
Well, thank you for being on, and this has been so much fun.
I enjoy it.
That was a great show. Hey, if you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please give us a review on the podcast directory of your choice. We're on all of them, and these reviews really help others find the show. Also, if you're getting value from the show and want to buy me a coffee, go to the show notes and click on the link to help me stay awake while I bring you more great episodes to your ears. That's in the show notes, and I look forward to the next episode. Take care, guys. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.
Hi, I'm Sarah Panus, and if you work in the content marketing space, I invite you to subscribe to the Marketing with Empathy podcast. Join me and other industry experts as we share ideas to help you connect with your audience to drive better business results. I've spent the last 20 years driving content for billion-dollar brands. Now I help marketers build winning brand storytelling strategies to reduce feelings of overwhelm and confusion. Think of it as a content marketing jam session mixed with chicken soup for the soul. Subscribe to Marketing with Empathy today.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.